Hello. In the video that follows, I demonstrate a connection-only Power Query that automatically adjusts a 3-year calendar. The calendar covers the current year, previous year, and following year. I use it in my electronic checkbook, powered by Excel, VBA, and Power Query. The checkbook provides automated processes for bill reminders, transfer of custom categorized credit card purchases to the transaction ledger, conditional formatting of transactions cleared by the bank, segmentation of expenses, and reconciliation of the transaction ledger with bank statements. The 3-year calendar is a good example of applying Power Query variables in M code. I hope you find it useful.
This video describes the creation of an auto-adjusting 3-year calendar through PowerQuery. The query is loaded as connection only and is meant to merge with other queries with date-related data. We'll begin with query code that will create 3 variables: a current year variable, a previous year variable, and a next year variable. And then we'll begin creating our list and start adding date-related columns. So let's begin. We start with a blank query. From the Data tab, we get data, other sources, and a blank query. We can begin by naming that query Calendar 3 Year. And we always start with the source. That's a default. And because it begins with a blank query with double quote strings, we're going to use the advanced editor to adjust that. In the let statement where it says source, we're going to put in our first variable. So we're going to take out the name source here and put in our current year variable. And that's going to equal date.year, which is Power Query's way of obtaining the year, and it needs a date. And we're getting that from the system. So the datetime will be the datetime function. And the fixed local now. So the fixed local now basically says to the computer, give me the date you have right now, and Power Query's date year will grab the date year. And then just to keep things in place here, we want it in current year. And that's how we're going to begin. That's how we get rid of the source. And as you see, we now have our current year. And then we can just use the function button to put in our next variable, which is the previous year, which happens to equal current year minus 1. Put that in. That's the current year. We're going to right-click here and rename this. That's our previous year variable. And then finally, we have the next year, which we'll add an additional variable. And that's going to be current year plus 1. So now we have our 3 variables, the current year, the previous year, and the next year, which I'm renaming now. And we're ready to create our list. But in order to use the list.dates function, we're going to need 2 more variables. One is our start date, so let's put that in. And that's going to equal date of the previous year. And the first month, first day. So that's going to be our start date. And then we have the end date, which is going to also be a date of the next year, 12th month, 31st day. We should rename those. That's our start date. And our end date. And now we can apply the listDates function. We begin by describing the list dates. Oops. And then we need a start date. So we just grab our start date. And we have to get a number from the end date subtracting number from the start date. And then we need the duration. We're going to have 1 day duration. So we're going to have a list of days, 1 day apart, from our start date to our end date. And there's our list. And now this list will adjust automatically because once the year changes in the system, we'll have a new current date, which will bring us a new previous date and a new next date. Let's name this date list. We want to convert it to a table, so let's choose the list, hit the To Table button in the PowerQuery ribbon, and we check we'll just use the defaults. There's no delimiter. And now we have a table of dates. Let's name this. Well, it's convert to table, but we'll use an abbreviation for that. Okay, we've made a table. And we should name the column. We're going to call that date. Double click, date, enter. And now let's rename this ren date col. We should make sure that PowerQuery recognizes this column as a date, so the data type should be date. So while it's still highlighted here, we'll choose date from the transform group in home. And now that's going to be recognized as a date, and we'll rename the step set date type. And now we are ready to add date-related columns. And this is very handy in PowerQuery. So we can move to the Add Column tab, and we have the handy Date button here. We'll start with the year. Let's get the year. And then again from the Date column, we'll grab the month and the month name from the Date column. And we'll rename our steps. Get year, get month, get month name. And we'll also put in the quarter and the week. Of course, you can use any of the date options that PowerQuery gives us. But this is all we're going to use for this calendar. Let's go back to the date column. And we're going to grab the week. And now this query can be used to be merged with other queries with date-related data, and that merge query can allow us to grab any number of date-related rows when we want to filter data. We'll do the renaming on the quarter and the week. And now we go to the Home tab and we close and load and make this a connection only. And this will automatically adjust itself as a 3-year calendar, no matter the year. That's all for now.